16. Simple strategies to detoxify your mind and stop thinking so much. Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. But what if your mind feels like it's constantly buzzing with worries, doubts, and endless overthinking? How can you find that elusive peace of mind?" In today's video on Stoic in Your Life, we're diving straight into this crucial issue with 16 simple, yet powerful strategies based on the timeless wisdom of Stoicism. These methods will help you clear mental clutter, reduce overthinking, and find true inner calm. Picture this. You're lying in bed, trying to sleep, but your thoughts keep racing. Work, family, goals you haven't achieved, and fears of the future. It's exhausting, and it's something we all face. But the Stoics believed that we could train our minds to be calm, focused, and resilient. How? That's exactly what we're going to uncover today. Each of these 16 strategies draws from Stoic philosophy, showing you how to live a more serene and balanced life. We'll not only explain how to integrate them into your daily routine, but also explore why they work and how they can fundamentally transform your thinking. Plus, I'll be sharing insightful quotes from Stoic philosophers to inspire and deepen your understanding of each concept. So, let's get started. First strategy: use positive affirmations. Seneca once said, "The greatest part of our happiness depends on our disposition, not our circumstances." This is where the power of positive affirmations comes into play. And today, we're exploring how this simple but effective technique can help detoxify your mind and bring more peace into your life. Positive affirmations are short, powerful statements that you repeat to yourself regularly to foster a positive mindset. They serve as a way to counteract the negative self-talk that so many of us are trapped in. We all know how easy it is to get caught up in a spiral of negative thinking, especially when facing stress, disappointments, or overwhelming responsibilities. Our minds tend to focus on what we lack, what we fear, or where we fall short. This is why it's crucial to consciously redirect those thoughts towards something more constructive. In Stoicism, mastering your inner dialogue is key to maintaining tranquility. The philosophy teaches us that while we may not control external events, we can always control how we react to them. In the same way, positive affirmations help us to take control of our inner reactions by replacing those harmful, self-defeating thoughts with words that build us up instead of tearing us down. If you wake up every morning dreading the day, telling yourself it's going to be difficult, you're setting a negative tone that can color your entire experience. But if you replace that thought with, "Today, I am capable, and I will make the most of it," you start shifting your mindset toward a more proactive and optimistic perspective. Positive affirmations are not about denying reality. They are about creating a mindset that empowers you to handle reality better. For instance, instead of focusing on past mistakes, try affirmations like, "I am constantly learning and growing," or "I have the strength to overcome any challenge." These affirmations acknowledge that difficulties exist, but reinforce your ability to meet them head-on. The science behind this is compelling. When you regularly affirm positive thoughts, your brain begins to form new neural pathways that reinforce these beliefs, making it easier over time to maintain a calm and confident state of mind. Even Marcus Aurelius, one of the most prominent Stoic philosophers, recognized the importance of our internal dialogue when he said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In modern life, where we are bombarded by information and distractions, it is all too easy to let negative thoughts take over. But by incorporating positive affirmations into your daily routine, you can carve out a mental space that is peaceful and affirming, no matter what challenges you face. It's important to start small and be consistent. Choose a few affirmations that resonate with you and say them every morning or whenever you're feeling anxious or overwhelmed. Over time, these words can become a quiet but powerful force in your life, gently steering your thoughts away from stress and toward a more balanced, resilient outlook. Remember, what you tell yourself every day matters. So why not choose to speak words that lift you up? This simple act can be the first step toward a calmer, more focused mind, which is the foundation for building a more fulfilling life. As you move forward, keep this Stoic wisdom in mind. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Second strategy, simplify your life. Seneca once said, "It is the mind that makes good or ill, that makes one happy or miserable, rich or poor." This timeless wisdom reminds us of the power our thoughts have over our sense of well-being, and it's precisely why simplifying your life can be such a powerful tool in detoxifying your mind. In a world where we are constantly juggling responsibilities, inundated with information, and pressured to keep up with an overwhelming pace, it's easy to lose ourselves in the chaos. But here's the truth. Most of the complexity we face is self-imposed. We fill our lives with unnecessary tasks, commitments, and clutter, thinking that it makes us more productive or successful. But does it really? Or are we just complicating our lives and clouding our minds with things that don't truly matter? By consciously choosing to simplify, you create more mental space, clarity, and peace. Imagine walking into a room filled with clutter. It's difficult to focus, isn't it? Now think of a tidy, open space where everything is in its place. That's what your mind can feel like when you simplify your life. To simplify, start by evaluating what's really important to you. We often say yes to too many things, spreading ourselves thin and diluting our energy. But the Stoics teach us to focus only on what truly matters, our values, our purpose, and what brings us peace. Take a moment to ask yourself, what are the activities, commitments, or even thoughts that add unnecessary stress to my life? Can I let go of some of these to make room for what's truly meaningful? Many people struggle with this because they feel guilty about saying no, or they fear missing out. But remember, every time you say yes to something that doesn't serve you, you're saying no to something that could. Decluttering your life also means letting go of physical items that no longer bring joy or serve a purpose. Think about how freeing it feels to clean out a closet and donate items you haven't used in years. Your mind works the same way. When you let go of old, unhelpful habits, toxic relationships, or even outdated ways of thinking, you make room for positivity and growth. Take the story of Tom, a successful entrepreneur who was constantly on the go. He had a packed schedule, multiple business ventures, and was always chasing the next big project. But despite his achievements, he felt overwhelmed and unfulfilled. After realizing that his busy lifestyle was affecting his mental health, he decided to simplify. He downsized his commitments, focused only on the projects he was passionate about, and learned to say no without feeling guilty. Tom discovered that by doing less, he was actually achieving more, not just in business but in his personal life too. He had more time to spend with his family, pursue hobbies, and most importantly, reconnect with himself. This is what simplifying your life can do for you. It's about creating space to breathe, to think, and to be present. So, what are you holding on to that's making your life more complicated than it needs to be? It might be an overloaded work schedule, too many social obligations, or even a mind full of worries about the future. The Stoic approach encourages us to focus on the present moment and what we can control, rather than getting lost in the what-ifs. Life becomes much simpler when we stop trying to do everything and instead choose to do a few things well. As Marcus Aurelius put it, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. You don't need to have a minimalist lifestyle to simplify. It's about making intentional choices. Whether it's clearing out your workspace, prioritizing your tasks for the day, or simply learning to say no to things that drain your energy, each small act of simplification brings you closer to mental clarity. The lesson here is straightforward yet profound. When you remove the excess, you can see what's truly valuable. Simplifying your life doesn't mean you're doing less. It means you're doing what matters. You'll find that when you clear the mental clutter, you're not only less stressed but also more focused and at peace. So, take a step back and simplify. Because a life free of unnecessary distractions is a life where you can truly thrive. If you take anything away from this, let it be this. Complexity doesn't equal success. and a busy mind isn't necessarily a productive one. Simplify and let the calm and clarity follow. Third strategy, limit the information you consume. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." This wisdom is especially relevant in our modern, hyper-connected world, where we are constantly bombarded with information from all sides: news updates, social media notifications, emails, and advertisements. It seems like every moment of our day is filled with some new piece of data demanding our attention, and this constant stream can easily overwhelm our minds, leaving us anxious and mentally exhausted. That's why the third strategy to detoxify your mind is to limit the information you consume. Now, this doesn't mean you should cut yourself off completely or stop engaging with the world. Instead, it's about being selective with the information you allow into your mind, prioritizing quality over quantity. Have you ever found yourself scrolling endlessly on your phone, reading headlines or checking social media, only to realize an hour has passed and you feel drained? That's because your mind is absorbing all that noise, and it's not built to handle that level of constant engagement. The Stoics believed in focusing on what truly matters, and part of this practice is learning to filter out the unnecessary distractions that only serve to clutter our thoughts. Ask yourself, do you really need to know about every piece of breaking news the moment it happens? Or is it just adding to your anxiety and stress? What if you could curate your own media diet, only allowing in content that uplifts, educates, or truly interests you? This is the essence of limiting your information intake. You become the gatekeeper of your mental space, deciding what deserves your attention and what doesn't. Just as you wouldn't eat junk food all day and expect to feel good, the same goes for the content you consume. Your mind needs a healthy diet of information that nourishes it, not junk that overwhelms it. Let's take an example from daily life. Imagine you're starting your day by reading the news. You might think it's essential to stay informed, but if the headlines are mostly negative, your day starts with stress. Now, imagine starting your day with a few pages of a thoughtful book or listening to a podcast that inspires and motivates you. The difference is huge, isn't it? Think about your own habits. How often do you catch yourself getting lost in unnecessary information that only distracts you or makes you feel worse? What if you could set limits like checking the news only once in the morning or turning off non-essential notifications on your phone? This small change can create a huge impact on your mental clarity. It's not about ignorance. It's about prioritizing your peace of mind. Seneca once said, "If you wish to improve, be content to appear clueless or stupid in extraneous matters." This is a reminder that you don't need to be an expert on everything. It's okay to miss out on the latest gossip or avoid a heated debate online because, at the end of the day, those things don't contribute to your personal growth or peace. The goal is to protect your mental energy for what truly matters to you, whether that's your family, your work, or your own personal well-being. When you reduce the noise, you give yourself space to think more clearly and deeply, to be more present in your daily life, and to invest your energy in things that genuinely fulfill you. So take a moment and evaluate where you're putting your focus. What kind of content are you feeding your mind daily? How can you limit the intake of things that don't serve you and replace them with information that helps you grow? It's not easy to change these habits, especially when our culture values being in the know. But remember, being selective is not about being uninformed. It's about being in control. It's about creating a mental environment where you can thrive, free from unnecessary clutter and distraction. As you go forward, try to be more intentional with what you read, watch, and listen to. You'll find that by limiting the information you consume, you're not missing out. Instead, you're making room for what truly enriches your life. And that's the essence of Stoicism, focusing on what we can control and letting go of what we cannot. Fourth strategy, develop a regular exercise routine. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This timeless wisdom resonates when we think about the connection between our body and mind, and it leads us to our fourth strategy, Developing a regular exercise routine. In today's fast-paced, tech-driven world, it's easy to overlook physical activity, but exercise is more than just a way to stay fit. It's a powerful tool to detoxify your mind and find clarity. You see, exercise helps in two main ways. It releases endorphins that lift your mood and reduces stress, and it gives your mind a much-needed break from the constant cycle of overthinking. Think about how many times you've felt anxious or overwhelmed, and instead of finding solutions, your mind just spiraled further into stress. Physical activity breaks that pattern. It shifts your focus, grounds you in the present moment, and brings you back to your body, something the Stoics always emphasized. After all, Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." When you exercise, you're taking action. You're doing something that moves you forward rather than letting obstacles hold you back. For many of us, especially men aged 30 to 65, life's pressures can start building up. Work responsibilities, family obligations, financial worries. It's easy to feel trapped in a cycle where the mind is constantly on high alert, trying to solve every problem at once. But incorporating a simple exercise routine can change that. You don't have to be a gym fanatic or train like a professional athlete. Start with something manageable and consistent. Whether it's a brisk walk, a morning jog, lifting weights, or even cycling, find an activity that you enjoy and can stick to. When you engage in physical exercise, your body produces chemicals like endorphins and dopamine that create a sense of well-being and happiness. It's a natural antidote to stress, anxiety, and overthinking. Plus, regular physical activity improves your sleep, which is crucial for mental health. After a good workout, you may find that problems that seemed insurmountable suddenly don't look so bad, and that's because your mind is clearer and calmer. In today's world, where we often feel the need to be on all the time, dedicating even 30 minutes a day to exercise can be a game changer. Aristotle believed, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. The same principle applies here. Building a regular exercise routine is about forming a habit that brings balance and discipline to your life. It's not just about the physical benefits, but about training your mind to commit, focus, and follow through. And when you can do that, you're better equipped to handle life's unexpected challenges because you've trained yourself to be resilient. So the question is, what's stopping you from making this change? Is it time? Motivation? Or maybe not knowing where to start? Begin small, set realistic goals, and track your progress. Celebrate the little wins. Each time you finish a workout, you're one step closer to a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. Think of your mind and body as partners. When one is neglected, the other suffers. By choosing to move, stretch, and engage in physical activities, you're not just building muscle or losing weight. You're also nurturing your mental state, clearing away the mental fog, and sharpening your focus. It's about creating a harmonious balance where the mind can rest because the body has done its job of keeping it active and healthy. Remember, as Seneca said, "The mind that is anxious about the future is miserable." Exercise can be your way of bringing that anxious mind back to the present, to a place where it's free from the burdens of past regrets and future worries. So, take that first step. Lace up your shoes, head outside, and let the rhythm of your breath and the beat of your heart remind you that you're capable of moving forward, one stride at a time. A regular exercise routine is not just a physical activity. It's a daily practice of self-mastery, resilience, and peace. And isn't that what we're all striving for? Thank you for being part of today's video. I want to take a moment to thank each of you for your support and participation. Feel free to share your insights or even just say, "I am a newbie," if you're new to our community, or "I am Stoic," if you've been with us for a while. Your interaction helps drive us to keep doing what we do, and we truly appreciate it. Now let's continue on this journey together, shall we? Fifth strategy, meditate daily. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. This is the essence of our fifth strategy. Meditate daily. In today's hectic world where everything moves at lightning speed and our minds are constantly racing, finding that quiet space within ourselves can seem almost impossible. But that's exactly why meditation is so powerful. It allows you to step back, breathe, and connect with the present moment. You may think that meditation is just about sitting quietly, but it's actually a practice that brings clarity, focus, and calm to your mind. Have you ever found yourself overwhelmed by your thoughts, going over the same problem again and again without finding a solution? That's because your mind is cluttered and needs a reset, and meditation can be that reset button. By taking just a few minutes every day to meditate, you can train your mind to stop reacting to every little thought and distraction, and instead, focus on what truly matters. Think about how many times you felt stressed or anxious, even when there was nothing immediately wrong. Our minds often get stuck in a loop of overthinking, worrying about the future, or regretting the past. Meditation teaches you to break that loop by bringing your attention back to the present. And it's simpler than you might think. You don't need a special room or equipment. You can meditate at your desk during a lunch break, sitting in your car before heading into work, or even while lying in bed. The point is to find a few quiet moments to clear your mind. When you meditate, you learn to observe your thoughts without judgment. Instead of letting worries or fears consume you, you acknowledge them and let them pass. It's like standing at the edge of a busy street, watching the cars go by. You don't need to jump in front of the traffic. You simply watch and let it pass. That's the mindset meditation fosters, a calm, detached awareness of your thoughts, without getting swept away by them. Consider the story of Steve, a mid-level manager who was constantly stressed. His job demanded a lot, and he was juggling family responsibilities, trying to keep up with work, and always felt like there was no time for himself. He started meditating for just 5 minutes each morning and gradually increased it to 15 minutes over the course of a few months. What he noticed was that his mornings became more peaceful, and his day felt more manageable. He wasn't getting caught up in every little frustration, and he started making better decisions because his mind was clearer. It wasn't that his workload changed, it was that his ability to handle it did. This is the power of meditation. It gives you the mental space to breathe, reflect, and approach challenges with a calm mind. What about you? Have you ever felt like your mind is constantly cluttered, jumping from one worry to another? What if you could give yourself a few moments of peace every day to simply breathe and reset? You don't have to be a meditation expert to start. Even a few minutes can make a difference. Start by sitting comfortably, closing your eyes, and focusing on your breathing. When your mind starts to wander, gently bring it back to your breath. Over time, you'll find it becomes easier to quiet your thoughts, and that sense of calm extends beyond your meditation sessions, helping you throughout the day. As Seneca said, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Meditation helps you see this truth. It reduces the power of imaginary fears and brings your focus back to what is real and present. The lesson here is that meditation is not about escaping life. It's about engaging with it more fully and with greater clarity. By meditating daily, you train your mind to be more resilient, less reactive, and more at peace. It's a practice of self-discipline that helps you control your thoughts rather than letting them control you. So take a few moments today and sit quietly. Listen to your breath, let your thoughts drift, and then let them go. You might be surprised at how much clearer your mind feels afterward. In a world that's always asking you to move faster, meditation invites you to slow down and reconnect with yourself. It's a small, simple habit that can lead to profound changes in your life. Remember, the calm you seek is already within you. You just have to take the time to find it. Sixth strategy: set clear boundaries. Epictetus once said, "No one can harm you without your consent," a reminder of how essential it is to set clear boundaries in our lives. This is the sixth strategy to detoxify your mind, and it's particularly powerful because without boundaries, you're like a ship at sea with no destination. Setting boundaries isn't about shutting people out or being difficult. It's about protecting your mental space, your time, and your well-being. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by demands from work, family, friends, and even ourselves. How many times have you felt stretched thin because you said yes when you really wanted to say no? How often have you taken on more than you could handle just to avoid disappointing someone? Setting boundaries is not selfish. It's a form of self-care that helps you conserve your energy for what truly matters. Imagine being at work and your boss keeps piling extra tasks on your desk because he knows you won't refuse. Or think about that friend who calls you every time they need help, but is never available when you need support. Without clear boundaries, you might end up feeling resentful, exhausted, and even anxious. This is why it's crucial to be honest about your limits and communicate them effectively. The Stoics taught us the importance of focusing on what we can control, and setting boundaries is an act of taking control over how we allow others to engage with us. It's about deciding what behaviors, tasks, and interactions you are willing to accept, and what you're not. But it's not always easy, is it? Many people fear that setting boundaries might make them seem unfriendly, selfish, or uncooperative. Yet if you don't set them, you risk burnout, stress, and a constant feeling of being overwhelmed. So, how do you start? It begins with clarity. Take a moment to reflect on where your time and energy are going. Are there situations where you feel uncomfortable, where you're giving more than you can afford, or where you're consistently drained? Start by identifying those areas, and then think about how you can draw a line to protect yourself. Let me tell you a story about John, a successful project manager who was known for always being available to help his team, even at the expense of his own time. He was burning out, feeling like he never had a moment to breathe. Finally, John realized that if he wanted to be effective at his job and still have time for his family and hobbies, he needed to set boundaries. He began by scheduling blocks of time where he was off limits to meetings and calls, focusing solely on important tasks. He also learned to politely but firmly say no when new requests came in, redirecting them to when he was available. Over time, his stress levels dropped, and he became more productive because he was no longer constantly being interrupted. What about you? Are there areas in your life where you need to set clearer boundaries? Maybe it's at work, where your colleagues assume you'll cover for them, or at home, where family members rely on you to handle every issue. Or perhaps it's in your social life, where you find it hard to say no to invitations or favors that drain your energy. Seneca wisely said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Boundaries help you preserve your time for the things that matter most. Start small. Practice saying no to something minor and notice how it feels. You might be surprised to find that most people respect your boundaries when you're clear and respectful about them. The key is to communicate calmly and confidently. Don't wait until you're angry or overwhelmed. Set your boundaries early and reinforce them consistently. This might be uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to being a yes person, but over time, it will become more natural, and you will start noticing a difference in how you feel. By setting boundaries, you're not just protecting your time, you're valuing yourself and teaching others to value you as well. The lesson here is simple. You have the right to protect your peace, and it is your responsibility to do so. The boundaries you set today can create the space you need to grow, relax, and thrive tomorrow. So, take control, set your limits, and let those around you know what is acceptable and what is not. After all, isn't it better to disappoint someone for a moment than to exhaust yourself for a lifetime? Seventh strategy: surround yourself with positive people. Seneca once said, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you." This piece of wisdom is at the heart of our seventh strategy. Surround yourself with positive people. In life, the company you keep plays a crucial role in shaping your mindset, your mood, and even your future. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how your energy can shift just by being around someone who constantly complains or sees the negative in everything? It's draining, isn't it? On the other hand, being around someone who radiates positivity, encourages you, and sees the good in life can uplift your spirits and help you see things in a different light. That's why surrounding yourself with positive people is not just a feel-good recommendation, but a powerful strategy to detoxify your mind and maintain mental clarity. The truth is, our thoughts are influenced by those we interact with daily. If you are constantly exposed to negativity, it's only natural that you begin to adopt that mindset. But if you choose to be around people who inspire you, who challenge you to be your best, and who bring a sense of calm and joy into your life, your perspective changes for the better. Aristotle said, "We are what we repeatedly do," and this also applies to our social interactions. If you're consistently engaging with those who lift you up, it becomes a habit, one that fosters a healthy, positive mindset. Have you ever thought about the people you spend the most time with? Are they adding value to your life or making you feel drained? This is an important question because whether we realize it or not, we often become a reflection of those we are closest to. Let me share a story of Tom, a businessman who was constantly stressed, anxious, and overworked. Tom had a habit of surrounding himself with people who fed into his worries, co-workers who would complain about every project, friends who always had something negative to say about their lives. It wasn't until he started making a conscious effort to change his circle, seeking out more optimistic, driven, and supportive people, that he noticed a shift. He began to feel more motivated, his stress levels decreased, and he could see solutions where he used to see problems. By simply choosing who he spent time with, Tom's whole outlook on life changed. The people around you can either feed your fears or fuel your courage, so why not choose those who make you stronger? So, what does this mean for you? It means taking an honest look at your relationships. Are there people in your life who constantly bring you down, criticize your efforts, or make you doubt yourself? If so, it might be time to set boundaries or limit your interactions with them. This doesn't mean you need to cut people off entirely. It's about creating space for those who genuinely care about your well-being and encourage you to grow. Consider the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, who said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." To maintain a healthy mindset, you need to guard your mental space just as carefully as you would guard your home. You wouldn't let someone walk into your house and create chaos, so why allow that in your mind? Surrounding yourself with positive people doesn't just mean finding friends who are always cheerful. It's about building a network of individuals who are supportive, constructive, and encouraging. Those who can be honest with you but in a way that helps you grow, not diminishes you. These are people who are actively working on bettering themselves and can inspire you to do the same. Whether it's a mentor at work, a friend who is always willing to listen, or a family member who believes in your potential, these connections are essential to your mental health and overall well-being. The lesson here is simple but powerful. You become the average of the people you spend the most time with. If you want to have a clearer, calmer, and more positive mind, then seek out relationships that reflect those qualities. Look for individuals who challenge you to think differently, who bring light into dark moments, and who are there not just in good times but when life gets tough. It's not always easy to change your social circle, but it's worth it. Start small. Reach out to someone who inspires you. Join a group of like-minded individuals, or even reconnect with an old friend who you know brings out the best in you. Life is too short to waste time on negativity. As you cultivate these relationships, you'll find that your mind becomes lighter, your thoughts clearer, and your path forward brighter. In the end, surrounding yourself with positive people is about investing in yourself, because when you do, everything else falls into place. Eighth strategy, embrace impermanence. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Observe how ephemeral and cheap everything is." This simple yet profound truth brings us to the eighth strategy, embrace impermanence. One of the biggest sources of stress and anxiety in life is our tendency to cling to things, whether it's our possessions, our routines, or even our emotions. We often act as if everything will last forever, but deep down, we know that nothing does. Accepting impermanence, the understanding that everything is temporary, can be incredibly liberating. When you accept that situations, emotions, and even people are not permanent, you free yourself from the fear of loss and the need to control everything. Life is full of changes, some expected and some that hit us out of nowhere. But when you learn to see change as a natural part of life, you can face it with more peace and less resistance. Think about it. How often have you stressed over something you had no control over? Maybe it was a job that didn't go as planned, a relationship that ended, or even just a perfect moment that you wished could last forever. The Stoics believed that the only constant in life is change, and the more we learn to flow with it, the less we struggle. Let me share a story that brings this concept into focus. Consider Sarah, a businesswoman who built her career from the ground up. She poured everything into her work, and for years she thrived. But when the company faced a downturn and she lost her job, her world came crashing down. She felt lost, overwhelmed by the thought that all her hard work had vanished. But after weeks of reflection, Sarah began to understand something important. Her job was never meant to be permanent. Instead of seeing it as a failure, she started seeing it as an opportunity to explore new possibilities. She took a step back, reevaluated her life, and eventually started her own business, something she'd always wanted to do but never had the time for. Embracing the impermanence of her job allowed her to move forward, unburdened by the weight of what once was and focus on what could be. So let me ask you this. Are there things in your life that you're holding on to too tightly? What would happen if you accepted that they too might not last forever? The Stoics teach us that everything we experience is temporary. Good times, bad times, success, failure, they all come and go. Seneca famously said, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." This means that the end of one thing often makes way for something new to emerge. When you embrace this concept, you start to see endings not as losses, but as transitions, making it easier to adapt and move forward. Accepting impermanence does not mean you care less. It means you learn to appreciate each moment without being crippled by the fear of its end. Take a moment to think about your daily life. Have you ever been so caught up in wishing things would stay the same that you missed out on enjoying them while they were happening? The truth is, trying to hold on to something too tightly often makes you lose sight of its beauty. It's like holding on to sand. The tighter you grasp it, the faster it slips through your fingers. So, how do you start embracing impermanence? Begin by acknowledging that change is not your enemy. It's a part of growth. Every time you face a situation that brings discomfort or fear, remind yourself that it is not permanent. Whether it's a tough day at work, a disagreement with a friend, or a difficult phase in your personal life, know that it will pass. This mindset doesn't just apply to challenging situations. Even in moments of joy, remember to appreciate them because they, too, are fleeting. The more you practice this, the less you will fear change, and the more resilient you become when facing it. This way of thinking aligns with the Stoic practice of premeditatio malorum, preparing for the worst so that you are not caught off guard by life's inevitable ups and downs. When you accept that change is constant, you don't spend your energy trying to fight it. Instead, you learn to adapt and thrive. If you've made it this far, you're on the path to mental clarity and peace. Drop a comment saying, "I am detoxifying my mind," to show you're dedicated to this journey of transformation. Stick around, there's much more wisdom to come. Ninth strategy, make time for hobbies. Marcus Aurelius once said, "People look for retreats for themselves in the country, by the coast, or in the hills. There is nowhere that a person can find a more peaceful retreat than in their own mind." This wisdom highlights the importance of finding spaces, both mental and physical, where we can unwind and reconnect with ourselves, and that brings us to our ninth strategy, make time for hobbies. In the hustle and bustle of modern life, it's easy to feel like every moment has to be productive, focused on work, responsibilities, or achieving goals. But constantly being on can lead to burnout, stress, and even a loss of self-identity. That's why finding time for hobbies isn't just about filling your free time. It's about creating moments where you can recharge, express yourself, and truly relax. When was the last time you did something purely for the joy of it? Something that wasn't tied to an outcome, a deadline, or a goal? Hobbies are a way to reconnect with that sense of joy and curiosity, and they remind you that life isn't just about ticking off tasks. It's also about enjoying the process. Consider this. Engaging in a hobby, whether it's painting, playing an instrument, gardening, or even cooking, allows your mind to focus on something that brings you satisfaction without pressure. It's a form of active rest that clears your mind of clutter and redirects your energy towards something that feels fulfilling. Have you ever felt the stress melt away when you're deeply absorbed in something you love doing? That's because hobbies help shift your mind away from overthinking and anxiety, giving you a break from the usual cycle of worries. Just think about John, a busy accountant who found his days consumed by numbers, deadlines, and meetings. He realized that he was losing touch with himself and was always stressed out. One day he picked up his old guitar, something he hadn't played in years, and just started strumming. What he discovered was that those few minutes of playing music gave him a sense of calm he hadn't felt in a long time. Over time, John made a habit of playing his guitar for at least 20 minutes a day, and it became his escape, a time where he could disconnect from work and reconnect with himself. What hobbies do you enjoy but haven't made time for lately? Or perhaps there's something new you've always wanted to try but felt too busy or unsure to start. The Stoics believed in the value of cultivating a balanced life, where you nurture different aspects of yourself, not just your career or responsibilities. As Seneca said, true happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. Hobbies allow you to do just that, to be fully present, immersed in something that brings you pleasure, without worrying about what comes next. In our fast-paced society, hobbies can be a form of mindfulness. When you're knitting, building a model, writing a poem, or even tinkering with a car, your focus narrows, and you find yourself living in the moment, freed from the distractions of everyday life. This is why making time for hobbies is a form of self-care. It replenishes your mental energy and nurtures your creativity. So, how do you start incorporating hobbies into your routine? Begin by choosing something that genuinely interests you, even if it's something you've never tried before. Remember, there's no pressure to be perfect. This is your time to explore and have fun. You could join a local club, take an online class, or simply dedicate a few minutes a day to practice. The key is to be consistent and to protect this time as you would any other important part of your schedule. It's easy to say, "I'm too busy," but when you prioritize your hobbies, you're prioritizing yourself. You're telling yourself that your happiness and mental well-being matter. And who knows, what starts as a simple pastime might even grow into a passion that enriches your life in ways you never expected. The lesson here is clear. Life is more than just work and obligations. By making time for hobbies, you give yourself permission to relax, to be creative, and to find joy in the simple things. It's about balancing the demands of life with moments of personal fulfillment, where you can recharge and rediscover what makes you happy. So what hobby will you make time for today? Whether it's picking up a paintbrush, hitting a few tennis balls, or simply diving into a good book, take that step. Allow yourself the freedom to enjoy life's little pleasures, because in those moments, you're not just passing time. You're nurturing your soul. And as the Stoics would say, to live a good life, we must learn to savor it, not just endure it. 10th strategy, learn to say no. Seneca once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself, and part of mastering yourself is learning the power of a simple word, no." This brings us to the 10th strategy, learning to say no, a skill that is often underestimated yet incredibly effective for maintaining peace of mind and reducing stress. We live in a society that glorifies busyness, where saying yes to every request can make you feel needed, productive, and valuable. But the truth is, constantly agreeing to things, even when you don't have the time or energy, leads to burnout, frustration, and a mind cluttered with commitments. By learning to say no, you are setting boundaries that protect your time, energy, and mental space, allowing you to focus on what truly matters. Have you ever found yourself overwhelmed because you took on more than you could handle, just because you didn't want to let someone down? Or perhaps you agreed to another work project even though you were already struggling to finish the tasks on your plate. It's a common scenario, but one that can be avoided when you get comfortable with declining what doesn't serve your well-being or align with your priorities. The Stoics understood the importance of focus and discipline. Marcus Aurelius advised, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." This principle applies equally to actions and commitments. Just because an opportunity presents itself doesn't mean you have to take it. Learning to say no can be challenging, especially when you fear disappointing others or missing out. However, saying no is not about rejecting people. It's about choosing what aligns best with your goals and values. Think of it this way. Every time you say yes to something unimportant, you're saying no to something else that might be more meaningful, like spending time with your family, working on a personal project, or even just taking a well-deserved rest. Take the story of Alex, a manager who felt like he was always playing catch-up, trying to juggle too many responsibilities at once. He realized that his inability to say no was the root of his stress. He was overcommitted at work, constantly agreeing to tasks that others could have handled, and even in his personal life, he found it hard to decline invitations and favors. One day, he decided to make a change. Alex started evaluating each request, asking himself whether it was essential or if it would take away from his key responsibilities. Slowly, he began to set boundaries, politely declining tasks that didn't fit his role and saying no to social commitments that drained his energy. The result? He became more efficient at work, felt less overwhelmed, and had more time to do things that brought him joy. So ask yourself, are there situations where you need to say no more often? Could setting boundaries help you reclaim control over your time and mental well-being? Learning to say no also involves confidence and clarity. It doesn't have to be harsh or abrupt. A simple, respectful, "I'd love to help, but I'm currently focused on other priorities," can go a long way. People often respect honesty and directness, even if they are momentarily disappointed. Seneca taught, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Every yes should be meaningful, a commitment that reflects your genuine interests and priorities. By being selective, you prevent yourself from spreading too thin and preserve your energy for things that truly matter. Learning to say no is an act of self-respect. It allows you to maintain control over your life, rather than letting others dictate your schedule and decisions. By setting clear boundaries, you give yourself the freedom to focus on what enriches your life, instead of being caught up in a whirlwind of obligations that lead to stress and anxiety. And remember, saying no doesn't make you selfish. It makes you strategic. It ensures that when you do say yes, you are fully present, committed, and capable of giving your best effort. So, start small. Next time you're asked to take on an extra task or commit to an event you're not enthusiastic about, think carefully. Can you afford to say yes, or would it be wiser to politely decline? Practice it, get comfortable with it, and watch how this simple skill can make a significant difference in your mental clarity and overall happiness. After all, life is too short to be overburdened by things that don't align with your purpose. Embrace the power of no, and let it open up space for what truly matters. 11th strategy, cultivate patience. Let's talk about the 11th strategy, cultivate patience. In today's fast-paced world, patience can feel like a rare virtue, yet it's one of the most powerful tools for finding peace of mind. We live in a time where everything is about instant results. Instant messaging, fast food, one-click shopping, and the constant urge to get things done quickly. But have you ever stopped to consider how this rush affects your mental state? When you're always in a hurry, constantly checking off tasks and expecting immediate gratification, you can easily become anxious, frustrated, and stressed. Cultivating patience is about learning to slow down, to accept that not everything happens on your timeline, and to be okay with that. It means understanding that some things take time, and that's perfectly fine. After all, good things are worth waiting for, aren't they? Let's consider a story about Mike, a small business owner who used to get impatient whenever he didn't see immediate results. Whether it was a marketing campaign, a new product launch, or even simple customer responses, he expected things to work out instantly. His impatience led to stress, and his team often felt the pressure. One day, a mentor advised him, "Just because you don't see results right away doesn't mean you're not making progress." It was a turning point for Mike. He started approaching his projects with a longer view, focusing on consistent, steady efforts rather than quick wins. Over time, he saw that this shift not only improved his business results, but also created a calmer, more focused atmosphere for his team. By cultivating patience, Mike learned that sometimes the most important work happens behind the scenes, quietly, gradually building towards success. Can you relate to Mike's story? Have there been times when your impatience made things worse or led to unnecessary stress? The Stoics believed that patience is key to maintaining a tranquil mind. Seneca said, "No man was ever wise by chance. Wisdom and peace of mind come from steady, deliberate effort, not from rushing through life." Think about how this can apply to your own life. Maybe you're trying to learn a new skill, like playing an instrument or starting a fitness routine. It's easy to get discouraged if you don't master it immediately or see instant results, but what if you embraced patience? What if, instead of focusing on how far you have to go, you appreciated each small step forward, understanding that every bit of progress is part of a larger journey? Cultivating patience doesn't mean you stop being ambitious. It means you're willing to stay committed to the process, knowing that the outcome will take time. So, how do you start practicing patience in a world that's always pushing for speed? Begin by setting realistic expectations for yourself and others. Accept that there will be delays, setbacks, and things that don't go as planned. Instead of letting these moments frustrate you, use them as opportunities to practice staying calm and composed. Patience is also about trust, trusting that your efforts will pay off, even if it takes longer than expected. Try this. The next time you're stuck in traffic or waiting in a long line, resist the urge to get irritated. Instead, take a few deep breaths, observe your surroundings, and allow yourself to be present in that moment. This simple act of patience can have a ripple effect, teaching you to be more tolerant and relaxed in other areas of your life. Patience is a form of strength. It's not about passively waiting for things to happen, but actively choosing to stay calm, focused, and resilient while you work towards your goals. The next time you feel your patience wearing thin, remind yourself that rushing won't make things better, but patience will make the journey easier. And isn't life more enjoyable when you're not constantly battling against time? As the Stoics teach us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. So choose patience, embrace the journey, and trust that everything will unfold in its own time. In the end, cultivating patience will not only help you detoxify your mind, but will also allow you to face life's challenges with grace and strength. 12th strategy: spend time in nature. In the rush of modern life, we often forget how deeply connected we are to the natural world and how much it can restore our minds. There's something profoundly calming about stepping outside and feeling the breeze on your face, listening to the rustle of leaves, or simply watching the clouds drift by. Nature has a way of grounding us, reminding us of the bigger picture, and helping us reset our minds. Have you ever felt overwhelmed, only to find that a simple walk outside made you feel lighter and more at ease? That's because being in nature allows your mind to take a break from the constant barrage of information and distractions, giving it the space to breathe and unwind. The Stoics understood the power of simplicity, and there is nothing simpler, yet more effective, than immersing yourself in the beauty of the natural world. Take the example of Tom, a busy executive who was always juggling emails, meetings, and deadlines. His stress was building up, and he felt like there was no escape from the pressure. One day, after a particularly hectic week, a friend suggested he spend his Saturday hiking in a nearby forest. Reluctant at first, Tom decided to give it a try. As he walked through the trails, away from the city's noise, he noticed his shoulders relaxing, his mind clearing, and his breathing slowing down. It was as if the forest was gently easing his worries away. After that experience, Tom made it a habit to take regular nature breaks, whether it was a weekend hike, a walk by the beach, or simply sitting in a park. It became his way of detoxifying his mind, finding clarity and reconnecting with himself. Have you ever tried something similar? What would happen if you allowed yourself a few moments each day to step outside and just be, without any distractions? Spending time in nature doesn't require a grand adventure. You don't have to climb a mountain or trek through a rainforest to feel the benefits. It can be as simple as sitting in your backyard, taking a stroll in your neighborhood park, or even bringing a bit of nature indoors with plants. The Stoics believed in appreciating the small things, and nature offers countless small wonders that can shift your perspective. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Often our minds create stress by dwelling on fears and worries, but nature brings us back to the present moment, grounding us in the reality of the here and now. When you're watching a river flow or the sun set, your mind isn't thinking about tomorrow's tasks or yesterday's mistakes. It's experiencing the simple, serene beauty of the present. So, how can you make spending time in nature a regular part of your life? Start by setting aside a few minutes each day to step outside, even if it's just to breathe deeply and listen to the sounds around you. Make it a habit to seek out green spaces, whether it's a weekend visit to a local park or planning a getaway to a natural spot. You can even combine this with other activities you enjoy, like reading a book under a tree, doing yoga on the grass, or bringing a cup of coffee outside in the morning. The goal is to disconnect from the noise and distractions of daily life and reconnect with something pure and simple. It's not just about relaxing, it's about finding a moment of stillness where your mind can rest and recharge. The lesson here is that nature is a natural antidote to the chaos of modern life. When you make time to immerse yourself in it, you're not just stepping away from your problems. You're giving your mind the space it needs to process, heal, and find clarity. And the beauty of it is that nature is always there, waiting for you, no matter how busy life gets. As the Stoics teach us, focus on what you can control, and sometimes that means stepping away and finding peace in the simplicity around you. So, the next time you feel your mind spinning with stress or overthinking, take a moment to go outside. Let nature do its work, and see how much lighter you feel. Life is too short to spend it trapped in a mental fog. Let nature be your guide back to clarity and calm. Thank you for being here and joining us in today's video. We appreciate your presence and support. What strategies have you found most effective in clearing your mind and reducing overthinking? We'd love to hear your experiences and thoughts. If you're not sure what to comment, simply write, "I am finding peace through Stoicism," to show that you're embracing this journey towards a clearer, more focused mind. 13th strategy: regularly disconnect from digital devices. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." In a world where we are constantly connected to our digital devices, this quote reminds us of the 13th strategy. Regularly disconnect from digital devices. Today, our phones, tablets, and laptops have become extensions of ourselves. We wake up to notifications, spend hours scrolling through social media, and constantly check emails even during our downtime. But have you ever noticed how this constant connectivity can drain your energy and clutter your mind? The digital world is full of noise, and if you don't step back from it regularly, it can overwhelm you, filling your mind with unnecessary information, anxieties, and distractions. Taking regular breaks from screens isn't just about unplugging. It's about reclaiming your peace of mind and giving your brain the space it needs to breathe, reflect, and recharge. Consider a typical workday where every moment is filled with screens, whether it's work emails, news updates, or social media notifications. When you finally get a moment to rest, instead of finding peace, you find yourself reaching for your phone again. That's because we've become conditioned to be always on, always available. But let's take a lesson from Stoic philosophy, where there is great value in finding moments of stillness. Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations advised, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." To reconnect with that inner peace, you need to disconnect from the digital noise. Have you ever felt that sense of mental exhaustion, even when you haven't done anything physically strenuous? That's digital fatigue. When your mind is constantly fed information, it doesn't have the time to process or rest. By taking deliberate breaks from digital devices, you allow yourself to regain clarity and focus, making you more productive and less anxious. Let's think about James, a middle-aged professional who felt overwhelmed by his digital life. Between managing work emails, family messages, and the constant lure of social media, he felt like he was losing control over his time and attention. One weekend, he decided to take a digital detox. He turned off his phone, closed his laptop, and spent 2 days without any screens. At first, he felt uneasy, as if he was missing out on something, but by the end of the weekend, he realized how much more relaxed and present he felt. He was able to enjoy simple things he hadn't noticed before, like reading a book without interruptions, having a real conversation without glancing at his phone, and just taking a walk without feeling the need to check for updates. Inspired by how calm he felt, James began to set boundaries for his digital use, such as turning off his phone during meals, limiting social media time, and dedicating 1 day each week to being screen-free. This small change had a huge impact on his mental well-being, and he found himself less stressed, more focused, and more engaged with the world around him. Can you relate to James's experience? What would happen if you gave yourself the same freedom to step back from your devices? The challenge in today's digital age is that we often equate being connected with being productive or informed, but that's not always the case. Constantly checking your phone doesn't make you more productive. It distracts you and keeps your mind jumping from one thought to the next. The Stoics believed in focusing on what you can control, and one thing you can control is how much time you spend on digital devices. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to appear clueless or stupid in extraneous matters." In other words, it's okay not to know everything happening online. You don't need to be aware of every news alert or respond to every message immediately. Instead, try to be intentional with your digital consumption. Set specific times for checking your emails or social media, and turn off non-essential notifications. So how do you start disconnecting in a way that benefits your mental health? Begin by setting aside small chunks of time throughout the day where you go screen-free. Maybe it's the first 30 minutes in the morning when you wake up, allowing yourself to start the day without being bombarded by notifications. Or perhaps it's during your lunch break, giving your eyes and mind a break from screens. Make it a habit to unplug before bed so your mind can wind down naturally, leading to better sleep. You can even go further by planning a digital detox weekend once a month, where you turn off all your devices and spend time doing things you love, reading, hiking, cooking, or just relaxing. The goal isn't to reject technology, it's to take control over how you interact with it. 14th strategy, practice forgiveness. Holding on to anger, resentment, or grudges can weigh down your mind, filling it with negativity and blocking your path to inner peace. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is about letting go of that burden, not for the sake of the person who wronged you, but for yourself. It's about freeing your mind from the chains of past hurts and allowing yourself to move forward without carrying that emotional weight. How many times have you found yourself replaying a painful event in your head, feeling the same anger or hurt over and over again? It's exhausting, isn't it? And yet, we often hold on to these feelings, thinking that by doing so, we're protecting ourselves or somehow punishing the other person. But in reality, we're only hurting ourselves. Let's take a look at John's story. John was a successful entrepreneur who had a close friend betray his trust in a business deal. For months, he couldn't stop thinking about it. He replayed the conversations in his mind, thought about what he could have done differently, and even avoided certain places just to escape the reminders of that painful experience. But the more he held on to that anger, the more it affected his health, his work, and his relationships. One day, after reading a piece on Stoic philosophy, he decided to try a different approach. He chose to forgive. It wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight. But he realized that forgiving wasn't about excusing what had happened. It was about choosing to stop letting that event control his thoughts and his life. Slowly, John began to feel lighter, and he found himself able to focus on new opportunities and rebuild his peace of mind. Have you ever been in a situation where holding on to anger only seemed to make things worse? What if you allowed yourself to release that burden, not for anyone else, but for your own peace? The Stoics understood that life is full of situations where others may act unjustly, but they believed in focusing on what we can control, our own reactions. Seneca said, "He who does wrong to himself." When we choose not to forgive, we continue to let the past have power over us. Forgiveness doesn't mean you forget what happened or that you invite the person back into your life. It means you decide not to let their actions dictate your present. Forgiveness is a form of self-care, a way to cleanse your mind and create space for more positive, uplifting thoughts. It's about understanding that everyone, including ourselves, is flawed and capable of making mistakes, but we don't need to be defined by those errors. By forgiving, you are not weak. You are taking control of your emotions and reclaiming your mental well-being. So how can you begin to practice forgiveness? Start by acknowledging your feelings. It's okay to be hurt or angry, but it's also important to understand that holding on to those emotions won't change the past. Ask yourself, what do you gain by keeping this resentment alive? If the answer is nothing but stress and bitterness, then consider letting it go. You can start small. Practice forgiving minor annoyances, like when someone cuts you off in traffic or when a colleague interrupts you at work. Notice how these small acts of forgiveness help you stay calmer and more composed. Over time, you can apply the same principles to bigger issues. Writing a letter, even if you don't send it, expressing your feelings can be a powerful way to release them. Remember, forgiveness is a process, and it's okay if it takes time. The lesson here is clear. Forgiveness is not about condoning the actions of others. It's about giving yourself the freedom to live without the constant shadow of past wrongs. By choosing to forgive, you're choosing to prioritize your peace of mind, to let go of negative energy, and to move forward with a sense of clarity. The next time you find yourself caught in a cycle of resentment, think about the Stoic perspective. Focus on what you can control and let go of what you cannot. Isn't it better to walk through life with a light heart rather than a heavy one? As the Stoics would remind us, peace comes from within, and sometimes the path to that peace is as simple as letting go. 15th strategy: keep a personal journal. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most prominent Stoic philosophers, wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." This reflection brings us to the 15th strategy: keep a personal journal. Writing in a journal might seem like a simple act, but it is a powerful tool for clearing your mind, understanding your thoughts, and finding clarity. Think about how often your mind feels like it's swirling with ideas, worries, and memories, almost like a traffic jam of thoughts that can be hard to sort out. Keeping a journal helps you untangle those thoughts by putting them down on paper, giving them a place to live outside your head. It's a way of making sense of your emotions and understanding the patterns in your thinking. Have you ever felt better after talking something through with a friend? Writing in a journal offers that same sense of relief and clarity because you're expressing what's inside, rather than letting it build up. Keeping a journal isn't about having perfect grammar or writing the next best-selling book. It's about being honest with yourself and creating a safe space to reflect. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." When you write down your fears, your stressors, or even your dreams, you often realize that the situation isn't as daunting as it seemed when it was just swirling around in your mind. Journaling helps you see things more clearly, breaking down complex emotions into manageable thoughts. It's like giving your mind a chance to breathe and process everything in a way that feels less overwhelming. For many people, this simple act of writing can lead to insights they wouldn't have reached otherwise. Consider Sarah, a busy professional who was constantly juggling work, family, and her own personal ambitions. She often felt overwhelmed by the sheer number of responsibilities on her plate, and at night, her mind would race, making it difficult to sleep. One evening, a friend suggested she start writing a journal, just to get her thoughts out. Sarah was skeptical at first, thinking she didn't have the time or energy for it, but she gave it a try. Over the next few weeks, she spent a few minutes every night writing about her day, her frustrations, and her hopes. It wasn't long before she started to notice patterns. She realized that many of her worries stemmed from things that were out of her control, and by writing them down, she could let them go more easily. Have you ever experienced something similar where putting your thoughts on paper helped you see things in a new light? The great thing about journaling is that it's entirely personal. You can use it to write down your goals, track your progress, or simply express how you're feeling on a particular day. You might jot down a few sentences about what made you smile, or you could explore deeper issues you're facing. Marcus Aurelius himself kept a personal journal, and his reflections became the famous book, Meditations, which has inspired people for centuries. By writing regularly, you create a habit of self-awareness, and that awareness is key to finding mental clarity. Journaling encourages you to pause, reflect, and consider your actions and thoughts, rather than rushing through life without stopping to think. So, how do you get started with journaling? The best way is to keep it simple. Start by setting aside a few minutes each day, maybe in the morning before your day begins, or at night before you go to bed. Write about whatever is on your mind, without worrying about how it sounds. Some days you might write a lot, other days just a few words, and that's okay. The point is to make it a consistent habit, a moment of the day where you check in with yourself. Ask yourself questions like, what did I learn today? Or, what am I grateful for? This can help shift your focus from what's going wrong to what's going right. The lesson here is simple. A personal journal is more than just a record of your day. It's a tool for self-discovery and peace of mind. It gives you a chance to release pent-up emotions, understand yourself better, and cultivate a clearer, more focused mindset. By writing regularly, you can track your progress, acknowledge your achievements, and remind yourself of your strengths. So, take that step today. Grab a notebook, open a blank page, and start writing. Let your thoughts flow, without judgment or restriction. You might be surprised at how much lighter your mind feels when you let your words carry some of the weight. As the Stoics would remind us, clarity of mind comes from clarity of thought, and sometimes all it takes is a pen, a piece of paper, and a few quiet moments to yourself. 16th strategy: practice self-compassion. In a world that often demands perfection, it's easy to be hard on yourself when things don't go as planned. Whether it's a missed opportunity, a mistake at work, or even a failed relationship, we tend to judge ourselves harshly, replaying our errors and shortcomings over and over. But think about it. How often do you speak to yourself in a way you would never speak to a friend? Practicing self-compassion means treating yourself with the same kindness, understanding, and patience you would offer someone you care about. It's about recognizing that everyone makes mistakes, that setbacks are a part of life, and that you don't have to be perfect to be worthy of respect and love. Have you ever noticed that when you beat yourself up over a failure, it only makes you feel worse and less motivated? What if, instead, you could find a way to learn from your mistakes without carrying the heavy burden of self-criticism? Think of self-compassion as a practice that allows you to pick yourself up when you fall, rather than staying down because you've convinced yourself you're not good enough. Let's consider the story of Dave, a man in his 40s who struggled with feelings of inadequacy after losing his job. He constantly replayed the reasons he thought he was to blame and started to lose confidence in his abilities. One day, a friend suggested he take a step back and write down 3 things he was proud of achieving, not just at work, but in life. It felt awkward at first, but as he continued to do it daily, Dave began to shift his focus from self-criticism to self-appreciation. He learned that his worth wasn't defined by one job or one failure, and he began to treat himself with more kindness. This simple act of self-compassion gave him the confidence to start exploring new career opportunities without the weight of his past dragging him down. What would happen if you allowed yourself the same grace when facing setbacks? The Stoics remind us to be gentle with ourselves. Epictetus taught, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And self-mastery includes understanding when you need to give yourself a break. Being self-compassionate doesn't mean letting yourself off the hook or avoiding accountability. It means acknowledging when you've made a mistake, understanding why it happened, and then giving yourself the encouragement to try again. Life is a continuous journey of growth, and expecting to get everything right on the first try sets you up for disappointment. Self-compassion helps you build resilience by creating a mindset that's more forgiving and adaptable, one that sees failure not as a permanent flaw, but as a stepping stone toward improvement. In today's fast-paced, hyper-competitive world, we're constantly being pushed to achieve more, to be more, and to do it all faster than ever. But this drive, while sometimes productive, can lead to burnout if it's not balanced with self-care. Seneca wisely said, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." And part of learning how to live well is learning to be kind to yourself, even when things don't go according to plan. When you practice self-compassion, you give yourself permission to be a work in progress. You allow yourself to acknowledge that no one has it all figured out, and that's okay. The next time you find yourself drowning in self-doubt or beating yourself up for a mistake, try asking yourself, "Would I say this to a friend?" If the answer is no, then it's time to change the way you're speaking to yourself. So, how do you begin to practice self-compassion in your daily life? Start by noticing when your inner critic starts to speak up. Catch yourself when you begin to spiral into negative self-talk and challenge those thoughts. Replace them with words of encouragement and understanding, just as you would for someone else who is struggling. It can be helpful to write down positive affirmations or things you've done well, especially when you're feeling down. This helps shift your mindset from what's wrong to what's right. You can also try self-compassion meditation, where you focus on sending kindness and care to yourself, especially when you're facing a difficult situation. Remember, the goal isn't to ignore your flaws or mistakes, but to learn to treat them with gentleness rather than harshness. When you practice self-compassion, you build a solid foundation of self-worth, one that isn't shaken easily by external failures or setbacks. You begin to see yourself not as someone who has to be perfect, but as someone who is capable of growth, learning, and resilience. And that's where true peace of mind begins. As you move forward, remember that each day is an opportunity to be a little kinder to yourself. As we come to the end of our journey through the 16 simple strategies to detoxify your mind and stop thinking so much, remember that applying these Stoic principles in your life isn't about perfection, but progress. Each step you take to clear the mental clutter and regain control of your thoughts will bring you closer to peace of mind and a more resilient spirit. If you found value in today's video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Stoic in Your Life. Make sure to turn on notifications so you never miss our upcoming videos filled with more wisdom to help you lead a calmer, more focused life. Stay strong, and see you in the next one.